Paul, thanks for making time for this. I'm super excited. Always fun to make digital friends, in this new day and age. And, even more fun. I always think about, I think it's a C.S. Lewis quote. He talks about friends are people who they're not kind of looking at each other like pathetically, will you be my friend? But they stand shoulder to shoulder looking at something else and saying, isn't that awesome? And they have that experience together. And I think for us, we have an unusual way of connecting, which is this idea of $100 book. We both kind of put it out. We're independently. We didn't met hadn't met beforehand, and we both said $100 book is awesome. And then it's that, what movie is that from? Is that Step Brothers? Like, did we just become best friends? Like that whole idea when you have something in common and a common mission, then you can connect with people pretty instantly. And um, so yeah, super psyched to talk. I know a bit about your story. I was joking with Katrina and Christopher that you're a bit of a blend of all of us. So like I have a traditional consulting background and then became an author and a writer and solopreneur and now at this kind of business writing band. And then you have a different but similar path with that. So I don't know if you want to do a brief overview because people know your story, but I find it fascinating. But.
Sure. And also amazing. I was feeling pretty insecure about my launch. I mean, when you're trying to do something different, it is pretty vulnerable. And so when I saw you were doing the $100 book thing, I was like, yes, one more, another one of us, or
Yes.
one of us. And it was very reassuring. And I'll get into, there's some interesting connections about why I decided to do the book, but we can get that into in a bit. My background, short and simple, I spent 10 years on what I call the default path. I racked up all sorts of prestige points in what I call prestige bingo. I went to MIT for grad school. I worked at places like McKinsey and Company and Boston Consulting Group, and somehow ended up at 32 years old, finally realizing, oh, wow, I don't want to do any of this. I don't even think I want to go do this independently on my own. And so quickly after quitting my job, I realized, one, I do not, in fact, want to be a freelance consultant doing what I had been doing before and getting paid good money to do that. And then two, this experience of being self-employed is very bizarre and weird, and it also feels amazing and incredible and might be the perfect path for me. And a lot of my writing has been exploring that disconnect. And at first, it wasn't very many people following me, but over the years, I've had a growing audience that are saying, yes, this is interesting. Please keep going.
So, Paul, can I ask you? So, I have your business career, and I'll dig into that a little bit because it's super cool. And then I want to know, when did you really start writing? Like, I suspect you kept a journal or something fairly early on, because like I have noticed that people who are currently doing well writing, they love writing, and they've been writing for a bit more than they've actually been publishing. So, is that right?
I think my first experiments were high school and college.
Hmm.
I wrote a couple, and they were mostly humorous things. I wrote an interesting article for my high school yearbook talking about how me and my friends all were driving minivans because our mothers didn't think minivans were cool anymore and were buying crossover SUVs. And I just got a kick out of writing this. I had so much fun. In college, a few clubs I was a part of, I wrote similar essays. And
By the
I
way,
didn't.
when the pirates go, we do a writing retreat at my place on the Big Island, and Christopher, who at some point you'll meet, loves muscle cars and that. He always gets a kick out of driving my blue Honda Odyssey minivan down there because it's the best
They're
functional
so
car out there.
functional. They're
Oh
so
yeah,
good.
I always say I don't know what you have now, but like when we first got, I'm not a car guy, but when we first got our minivan, I was like, I can feel the other moms and dads like have gone through this and have designed it precisely for this car seat dynamic and Cheerios and the anyway. So I love minivans, so that's funny.
Yeah, I liked it. I would drive around my friends. There'd be 6 or 7 of us in the van, and we'd be
It's an
bouncing around
incredible high
town. It
school
was pretty
vehicle.
fun.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. Okay, sorry.
And the interesting thing is, I didn't really write much as a kid. It was not something I was drawn to.
Mm,
I saw school. I was really good at school. Saw school as this functional thing. I'll do the things I need to do to get the good grades. And I always wrote for a public audience. So in college, I wrote as part of a blog with some other friends. After college, I wrote an anonymous blog about life after college. When I was in grad school, I had an MBA blog. I then went through some health issues and wrote a blog about that and shared it with people. And
mhm.
so I was always sharing it with people. So for me, the writing has always been linked to sort of sharing, teaching, um, give like making sense of the world from my perspective and
Yeah.
getting feedback from others. And so that's always been a huge motivator for me.
Well, I think it's super cool because like I think someone one of our original co-founders, Cole, right, Nicholas Cole, he always talks about practice, write in public, and I think that's what you have that superpower early on because I think there's a lot of people that I know and probably as well that they have interesting things to say, but they don't want to share it for a variety of reasons, and some of it is being comfortable, being vulnerable and open, obviously is an attraction. And the other is they're not sure if they have anything to say, which writing does help you process that. But the third one is, I think, is the frightening aspect of getting feedback. Like putting yourself out there there are very few things that you make you feel as exposed as that. So you got rid of that pretty early on, it seems like.
I still face that. I think I was always writing in safe spaces like Tumblr, where most of the people following my stuff I didn't know. They were anonymous people. And so I wouldn't share it with family. I wouldn't share it with close friends. Then I got a little bolder, I think, as I hit my late 20s. I think this creative part of me was like, we must be expressed. Like, if you're not going to do something with this, we're going to tear you apart. And so I wrote, well, I think the first was Quora. And I think this is where Cole started as well.
Mm-hmm.
Quora was magical because it was this space where online writers were experimenting with different ways of writing, different styles. And all you had to do was click your interest and then log in, and there'd be 5 questions
Yeah.
for you to answer. And so quickly, what turned to what if people laugh was, whoa, people are liking this. This is very valuable. I'm writing
Yeah.
about getting into college, getting into business school, writing about consulting skills. And that just sort of gave me courage, I think. I eventually posted something publicly on LinkedIn, and that was terrifying. Not because of the writing. I think it was terrifying because it was my first admission to myself, probably, that this is something I like doing and care about. And what happened was everyone at my office who used LinkedIn every day for recruiting, no one said anything. Everyone just ignored it.
So wait. So two things I want to back up. One is this idea of this creative process, this another personality, like we must be expressed. Like I think it was when my first book was about to be published. I remember there was some interview with Salman Rushdie, I think, and he was like, "Look, as the definitive guy for why you shouldn't publish something because bad things can happen to your life, right?"
Yeah,
He was like, "The
that's
only reason why you should publish something, in his opinion, he's like, everything's been written about. So the idea that you have something original to say in the world, maybe not true, right? But it's that something inside you will not shut up and will not leave you alone. And if you don't publish this, you will explode. And that's the only main reason to write. So I thought that's what that reminded me of. And then it's this kind of interesting like angel devil on your shoulder of like you must do this, no they'll laugh at you or whatever, but like when you publish your LinkedIn post, that's an interesting idea of practicing on other platforms and then graduating to more or less anonymity. Where were you in your like were you at Russ Reynolds at that point, I think it was, or
yeah. I was
yeah,
in the final 2 years. And
final 2 years,
so
yeah.
I think that was me testing the waters.
Yeah.
But what happened immediately after is I published 4 or 5 articles, and I started meeting people through the articles. And so I'm writing stuff and then walking down the street a couple blocks and having these amazing conversations with people I didn't know I needed to meet. Like they cared about
Yeah.
ideas, they cared about
Yeah.
writing, they cared about engaging with different interesting people. And really everything's downstream of that for the last 10 years. And I've been
That's awesome.
orienting so much around finding the others, writing for the audience, not for an audience, but writing for myself and writing for a connection to something bigger and hoping others want to join that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Well, I love that because you know what's fascinating for I stayed at my old firm for about 18 years, and you make a lot of friends over the years, and then but you do realize like they're kind of work friends, and then they're friends, right? The work friends are people. They're like high school friends, like which I'm very close to my high school friends, but at some point you run out of stuff to talk about when you're done rehashing all the good old days type of a thing, and work friends are you have without that kind of let's talk about work, there's not much left there. But I think kind of idea friends, that's a very different thing than I think some of the previous two. And I think that's what you're describing is really interesting is the ability to connect, whether on LinkedIn, but like through the process of I write this because this animal in me must get it out. And then the animal's telling me you must get it out. And then the other side of you is like, you're the only one who cares about this, right? And then you meet somebody who's like, oh no, you care about this idea too. It's a super cool thing. And I think to be able to connect with somebody who loves a shared idea, it's a very different kind of friend, I think.
Yeah. And this is why I'm a bit jealous of what you've got going on. You have a little band of writers. That's like writers are such disagreeable people that we can never do anything with anyone. But
Well,
everyone secretly is like, oh, I want that.
it's I'll share it now because I think I recognize increasingly how rare it is because we'll talk about like category pirates, we were a business writing band, everyone should have a band, and I'm like, that's actually a tall order to ask of people because and kind of like you, so I had been writing I started my first HBR article I wrote in 2009, and so like our careers kind of rhyme. Like I stayed in much longer, and I'll share a bit about
Yeah.
that. But like, and I wrote on HBR largely because so I had two kids. My wife and I were arguing about having three. Right, I came from two, she came from three, and then she was like, she hates when I tell this story. She's like, because this is how I remember it. I don't know what she actually said. But she said I remember her saying something like, well, you can choose to be a good husband and a father, or you can choose to be a partner. I was like, because it was like the other partners had said, we'll elect you whenever you're ready. You've cleared all the hurdles and this and that. And then she was like, the stories you tell of the other partners do not sound good. You're
Yeah.
starting over at the bottom, like you think you've made it to the top, and then you're a junior partner. You're at the beck and the call of the senior partner. Like, what's to like about that? And yeah, there's more money or whatever, but like, so I really had to think hard about that, and that's when I was like, okay, if I do this, I kind of needed to do a pathless path, right? I needed to be not just a partner in title, but I needed to have my own intellectual capital, my own POV, my own thoughts, so that I could dictate my own time in agency. Now yes, it would be more successful, this and that. So that's when I started writing for HBR. But then like, that had been such a introverted experience, and I'm an introvert married to an even more introverted person. And so when I met Christopher, this is now 2015, 2016, he had found one of my HBR articles, and he on category design, and he had been writing a book with a couple of other guys, Play Bigger, on category design, and he wanted to connect on that. And then and when you meet him you'll meet him at some point, he is like, you'd be like, why are the two of you in a band? You guys are completely the opposite of each other. And he's talking about Play Bigger, and my first thought, 2 Point writers being disagreeable, I was like, because my first book was about super consumers, and I'd been planning to write a book about category design. And he goes, I'm writing a book about category design. And I was like, oh man, like that was my first thought. It was like, I wanted to do that. And then I decided, like, I have mostly like Fortune 500 clients, mostly consumer, and these guys are Silicon Valley. Like they just have a better right to write about this than I do. So I just shoved all my stuff at him. I was like, look, take all of this. I want this idea to be out there. You have a better platform to go do it. And that led to him, this is a long story longer, him getting published in HBR. They published an excerpt of the book. And then, and I introduced him to my editor there. And he said to me, he was like, why did you do that? Like, why did you make that introduction and get us into HBR? That was this and that. And I was like, well, and I explained to him, like, I wanted to write the book, but you guys were much further along. You had a better platform to do it. And I thought the message would have a better chance of succeeding there. And he goes, and Christopher, he talks about got thrown out of high school, because he was dyslexic and told he was dumb, was, in his words, shaving dudes' balls as a hospital orderly before he decided to like make something of himself. And he would go to the library and read HBR for free because no college degree, no anything like that. And he goes, I don't know if you know how meaningful it was for me as a kid who was told he was dumb, who read HBR to make something of himself, became a CMO of a publicly traded company at 28 from that, to then be published in HBR. He's like, that was incredibly meaningful for me. And I don't know if you know that. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. And then eventually I'm in a Costco in Kona, with my family, and he calls me, and he's a colorful language person, right? Just F-bomb after F-bomb. I'm just like, and people around me can hear what he's screaming into the phone. He's like, some other dude is writing about, category design. He's stealing your stuff. He's stealing my stuff. And we have to write a book now and set the record straight. And I was like, what is happening right now? And so I felt a little like pushed into write. Like, it's exactly like, I was like, I don't know how we're going to write this together. Like, we're very different. I like him and I want to, happy, but I've never done anything like that. And so we did it together.
That's
Thankfully,
cool.
he had the idea to bring Cole on board, and I was like, I'd never used a ghostwriter before. And so we thanks to Cole, who was an absolute gangster on it. But like the three of us, like, I just don't think it's like, when I lay it out and I listen to myself tell you about it, I'm like, this is so incredibly ridiculous. Timing is everything. The weirdness of our personalities. Because I'll tell you, I think Cole was in his late 20s, like if we had just been a year or two later, he is like, Cole is someone on a rocket ship, like
Yeah,
I've never seen.
for sure.
We probably can't get his attention a year or two later, right? Like, he's at the right sweet spot, a year or two younger, maybe not. And then, Christopher and I, he's in his, I think he's turning 57 this year. I just turned 51. Like you find us at different parts of our career. We're maybe a little more territorial and competitive, but like we both kind of, I think he went on his pathless path in his late 30s. I went on it in my early 40s. And so the fact that we had done that made it easier for us to be a business band together. But I think so timing is everything. I would be thrilled to have you find a band, and I will hope, and if I can find someone with that, and it's super enjoyable when you can find it. But yeah, a lot of writers probably have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find that, perfect group and stuff. So
yeah, it's something I'm thinking a lot about, and it sort of fits with this bigger thing we're talking about with the book. So the interesting thing about why I started this premium hardcover edition of my book, The Pathless Path, I was talking to Charlie Hone, he's a book coach, and he literally recommended me your book, 22 Laws of Category Design. And I went through this book, and one of the ideas, reject the premise. And it perfectly fit how I was feeling at the time.
wow.
It was about 3 to 4 months after rejecting a deal from Portfolio, part of Penguin, a very elite publisher of books, to purchase the rights for my book and a second book. And I just rejected the premise of all their assumptions. None of it made any sense. The internet has literally been created, and all of their thinking around business and authors, and then also how most authors were just accepting these terms. They were accepting the premise. Mm-hmm. And I was saying, none of this makes sense. There's no reason to give up your lifetime rights to your work. It doesn't make sense. They're saying they can print hardcovers better than anyone else, and this is why you should go with them. That didn't make sense to me because people were buying paperbacks and were delighted at the paperbacks. No one complained in a year and 20,000 sales at the time that, oh, you don't have a hardcover, you're not serious, or oh, you're not a real publisher. I would have liked your book more. And so I started thinking, okay, what are some interesting things I can do that accept some of their assumptions but blow them out of the water? So they said they can do great hardcovers. Well, I'm going to compete directly and do something so crazy and just declare myself a publisher at the start. And so this is part of a bigger push of seeing what are the possibility space for this publishing and solo author and authorpreneur type thing. And people like you have really blazed the trail, like Nicholas Cole, like we've mentioned multiple times, like he's a great role model for this. I think we can't even imagine the possibilities of this yet with
100%.
technology changing and how early we are in internet and self-publishing. And so retaining my rights is retaining all that upside. And so I want to do bold things and I want to experiment for the next 5 to 10 years with books. And this is just step one. I don't even know if I'll make money on this, but in some ways it doesn't matter. I just wanted to essentially, I mean, you know this better than me probably. I'm trying to establish a category that is separate and different.
Yeah.
I don't want to compete in the psychological space of the traditional publishing world because mostly it generates cynicism and lack of ambition.
Well, I don't know Charlie, but please tell him thank you and appreciate the good word that he put in. We love 22 Laws, and to your point, like the irony of that is like I'm now trying to figure out with the team like how do we relaunch 22 Laws as $100 book while leaving the I'll get into the whole business and portfolio strategy in a bit, but like the reject the premise, I love it, and you've been doing it back from your early minivan, like, hey, let's reject the premise. This is actually a great car for teenagers, not a whatever and stuff. And that, you rejected the premise through your career, moving to Asia, kind of living, kind of the free nomadic life that you had. And I think what's so cool is I am confident you will absolutely make money on your $100 book because you don't know if you're going to make money. Like it doesn't matter because you've already established kind of, what I would call is it's people think FU money is just having like, a crazy amount of money. No, it's the ability and the courage and the certainty that you can generate income, however, without people's help. Right. And so I think that ability of FU skills and, cash flow, which you already have, which gives you the freedom to experiment, which as you experiment and you create new categories and reject the premise, by definition, you will be successful with that. It is kind of my whole thing with it. And so I love what you're doing on that front, and, would love to actually dig deeper. And well, actually, you probably have shared this before, but I would love to hear what the response was when you turned them down. Like did they respond at all? Did they not understand? Were they kind of emotional about it?
I detailed the whole conversation. I mean, not all of it. I left out
have it already. Yeah.
A little bit in the essay Reclaim the Book.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So I think they did not expect that I would not be thrilled to receive the offer. So I had a call with the junior editor and half an hour call, and then they literally made me an offer over email. 2 books. Yeah. I didn't have to pitch. 2 books, 200 grand, 70 grand for the Pathless Path, 130 grand for the second book. And so already red flags are going off, and like, well, they didn't want to like know more. They're just jumping that quick. And I get in the call, and I think they were just ready to give me a couple highlights and have me say, yeah, let's go. Let's explore this. But I was very skeptical. I asked them what ideas they had for the book. They didn't really have any ideas. They wanted to
Yeah.
take the book out of print, slap a new cover on it, potentially keep mine, uh, maybe rename it. And so I'm just like, I talk to my readers every week. They're freaking out. They love this book. I've only sold probably 12,000 at this point. I've now
Yeah.
sold 70,000, but at that
Amazing.
point people were freaking out, emailing me every week. And so they want to take it out of print, slap a new cover on it, and I'm like, this is crazy. And so I countered on the call. I hadn't planned on doing this. I said, I'm not writing a second book. I would consider The Pathless Path because I think it has enormous potential, but it would need to be way higher. I don't think you're valuing the book correctly. And they said, okay, what is higher? I said, I don't know. It'd have to be much higher. They're like, just give us a number. We've heard it. I said $600,000. And immediately I could tell they had exited the conversation. I think they really looked down on me. Like they were like, "Who is this loser?" They were basically like,
Meanwhile, let me just
this is
as
not how
somebody,
it works. You need to talk to an agent."
and the junior editor dude probably has never published anything. No offense to whoever that person is, but that type of person.
She was actually great. Like that person I talked to, I give her a lot of credit. I think she's in a junior role. She doesn't have a lot of autonomy. She's sort of like carrying out stuff. She was very thoughtful, very, very open to what I was talking to. It was the senior people though that I think just like, I don't know, they're from New York. Like it's that world. I don't belong in that world. That's why I left the corporate world in New York.
Well, but it's also, you know, what's kind of what I'm most curious about is, do they actually believe what they're saying, you know, and think that, you know, hey kid, like you're missing out on something that would be great for you, or do they actually know the emperor has no clothes and they're like, we're not going to share more with you and this and that? Like I'm trying to figure out, is it ignorance or is it deviousness? Like which one is it more so? But
I think this is actually what I write about in my books. I think it's actually a completely different third thing, which is a performance. You're so deep in the system that you're sort of just talking the company lines.
Yeah.
And I think the publishing industry just has this lore and these beliefs and these phrases that get repeated that it's borderline propaganda of a cult.
100%.
I was joking how I talk to authors and they repeat these things. And they'll say, well, you can't make any money on books, so you might as well just take the advance. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's not true anymore post-internet.
Yeah. That's the part that is so frustrating, is that I do think it is why I think the one of us was so exciting for us, because like is I've met so many very, very smart business people, you know, consultants in their lanes, you know, that would never give their clients the advice that they're taking for themselves when it comes to their books, right? You would never advise a client at McKinsey, oh yeah, you should give up your lifetime rights, this and that. Like you would always, almost like a good consultant would default to the, you know, that Taylor Swift seems to know what she's doing. Like
right.
Owning her own art would seem to be like the trend that things are going at. And so like we have a line that we always talk about, like, let's not be so smart we're stupid. And that smart people do stupid things all the time. Not that they are stupid, but it's because when you buy into the myth and you haven't rejected the premise, and you're kind of reflexively repeating the party line in the standard lore, then you don't actually do it. And then frankly, business people in particular, like you know, like Christopher and I kind of like, we slap ourselves upside the head of like, I remember because we wrote about it in the Substack post that we connected over. It was like, I kind of knew when I looked at my contract from HBR, and I was like, HBR was great. Like they were very transparent about like, look, we know how the economics work. We know you're not stupid, but we're HBR. And they were actually very helpful with the launch and, you know, translations in other countries. And there's a whole speakers setup. Like they'll just take they always pay speakers to come and speak wherever, as long if you're an HBR author, it's like, so their ecosystem is actually pretty good, I would say, much more than the traditional houses and the like. But it was one of those. I did not read the contract as closely as I should have. I was like, oh, I'm going to be an Harvard Business Press author. What's not to like about that, right? And it's a and all the little things about, like, so wait a minute, always be skeptical and suspicious. Like, why are royalties for ebooks 25% versus print, is 10%? Is there a logical, rational reason behind that? Who controls price? Like the whole kind of, I am ashamed of my younger self for not being kind of more analytical and skeptical about all of this. Now, had I done that, I probably wouldn't have published it and written it. And I think there's an argument to be made about, part of what I like about your whole lane on the Pathless Path is that you don't have to do it with a traditional house. You could do it with at least one. If you did all your books with a traditional house, I'd probably raise some questions. But like, there's not any one given way, which is so cool about your way and my way and Christopher's way and Cole's way and everything else and stuff with it. But like, it's really kind of fascinating, just how much unlearning has to be done by authors in particular first. But then, if you had a traditional publisher, like was it Penguin or Random House that was you were having
Yeah.
the conversation with? Had they said,
Penguin.
you know what, Paul, let's go 50-50.
Right. Yeah.
We'll all make more money that way. Like, and I think about what they could have done had they left you alone, let your current book, and yes, let's make it super incredible. Like, if they did the $100 book strategy that you're doing with their platform and
all
their
of this,
resources,
there's so much potential. I think this is what kills me is I accept that I am limiting my potential by going solo. However, the ideal partner that could partner with me and be a 1 + 1 = 3 actually doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. Yes.
And so that industry is so anchored in this is the way we do things that I don't want to participate in it because I think it is a net bad for the entire creative writing world. I think it generates on net cynicism because what you have is people like you who go do one book and then realize this is not a good deal for me. They don't actually care if I thrive. Or I'm not going to write a second book. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting my rights back. I'd love to promote it, but who cares? I haven't earned out. And the entire writing and publishing industry actually is not aligned currently with helping create the best stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's that simple.
It's that simple. And you know what? The pie with books in general would be 10x bigger, in my opinion, if they actually let creators create. And because it is, to your point, like, I've worked with, I know publishers and this and that. You and I, we all love books. Book guilt is a real thing. People buy books and they don't finish them, right? And if you hey, how about you make it easier for, read this, you don't have to finish the whole book. That's okay. You don't have to, or, how about part of what we're jamming on, and let's move on to this part of it, is like, how does the math and the category design of the $100 book I want to get into, because we're still trying to figure some stuff out. But like, one of the things that we're doing that a traditional publisher would never do is for the $100 book kind of pipeline that we have is like, we want to print a $100 book. There's one path that's kind of like, I would call your collector's edition, that you're doing like super nice, and the gift cards and the cards that you have with it, all that, the bundles are super cool. But like, how about we bundle the physical product with the zero marginal cost digital products of, like, you get the Kindle book EPUB for free with the $100 book. We get the audio book for free with it, and that the audio one, the Kindle one is no problem. The audio one, we've been using 11 Labs to do our AI voices, and it, who I really dislike. I'm mad at the publishers. I'm really angry at Audible, because they won't allow AI voices from authors. And like, to me, they are kind of publicly enemy number one of anti-author, because they're so opaque. Who has the gall to take 60% of somebody else's stuff? And you won't allow AI but you allow your AI, like you have no principles behind what you're actually talking about. So at any rate, so that's kind of the path that we're taking. But like, I don't know if you, I'm sure there's a lot of red meat there that you want to jump in on, but like, how are you thinking about the $100 book to make it work?
Yeah. So this was really an art project at its core. And what I mean by that was I wasn't trying to think business first in terms of ROI. I did that for 10 years in the first chapter of my career.
Yeah.
And I've sort of done that in every other thing I've done earlier on this path by keeping costs really low and being very frugal.
Yep.
And so this was a way of saying, what if I just spent a lot, invested big, made a bigger bet in a direction I believe in?
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like? And so I really pushed the artistic edges in terms of investing and printing a bunch of copies up front, doing some extra stuff like notebooks, hiring a custom high-end illustrator, and paying for a lot of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still thinking about the business model. So early on, it was this anchor of, okay, I'm going to launch this minimum $100.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've sold about 250 in the first 2 weeks,
That's
which is
awesome.
pretty wild. And so it's very clear people want this and or at least want to support me,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
And so that is going to be the opening move of me shifting more into direct sales and then experimenting like you with packaging it with bundles of uh, ebooks and audiobooks and maybe printed versions of the other books. You can do those through Lulu on Shopify and it can
Mm-hmm.
all be synced up. And maybe throwing in signed editions of other books, creating some custom one-off editions, and
Yeah.
essentially moving more to what a modern musician looks like, which is launch, 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 launch,
Yeah.
launch.
Yeah.
Drake releases a new single all the time.
Yeah.
He's just constantly releasing singles. And so I want to think about books like that. I want to produce shorter books. I want to do more
Yeah.
experimental books. But I'm doubling down on the ones that are working.
Yeah.
And so Pathless Path is already working. I'm not making a premium art edition of Good Work, my second book, because I don't have the feeling that that one's really hit or taken off yet.
Interesting.
Maybe
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
future, but doubling down the ones that work, I'm going to use Pathless Path to fund the other ones in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I love the experimentation because, like, like our category part Substack, we reframed it from a newsletter to a mini book because people would complain, like, hey, man, like, I'm on the can and I have 30 minutes later, I'm still on the can. Like, your stuff is too long. And we were like, well, get off the can, number one, don't read it there and stuff. But like, we wanted to write something that was like, we were just kind of jamming and we just kind of wanted to do what we wanted to do with it. And it ended up being anywhere between 5 to 15,000 words. And we were like, you know what? Short plane ride, great. Commute, great. Long workout, great. Whatever it is. And that was, as you said, why there's no reason why you can't reject the premise of a book has to be 200, 300 pages. Like, let's do mini books, let's do medium books, let's do longer ones, however you wanted to do it with it. But like, the idea of a one size fits all, because I think, I bet you, I don't know if you have the data on it, is of the 250 that have bought the premium version, I'm going to guess over half already own the copy in some way, shape, or form. And that, I don't know if you have, is that true, you think?
I don't know. This is the interesting thing to me is I don't know most of the people purchasing the book. And so that tells me two things. One is I either didn't know my existing readers or fans that well, which is true because I don't have any of the data or information. And two, I do think there is a slightly different market for a high-end book, somebody that just absolutely loves books.
Yes.
I actually got pretty nervous before the launch because I asked a few people that had always supported my work and even bought my work what they thought, and they were just instantly dismissed it. Oh, I would never pay that for a book.
Interesting. Yeah.
It was very crushing. But at the same time, it made me realize, oh, maybe this is sort of a new, different market rather than a smaller part of the bigger funnel.
Yeah. Well, I maybe it'll be fascinating to see what we'll talk again and you'll tell me what you think the answer is with it. But like, for sure, like I've always said, like, um, we have three types of super consumers for category pirates. They're those that I have a question and I just want the answer to the question, and then I'm out. Type of thing. I'll buy something, I'll read it, I'll subscribe for a month on Substack, and I'm out. And if I can get it for free, even better, right? And then you have people that are on a quest of some sort, right? I want to be a category designer. I want to take my company public. I want to become a solo. I want to be my pathless path type of a thing, right? And it's not one Q&A, but a series of them. And the hope is that the quest unlocks questions that they didn't even know to ask, and so they're with us for the longer haul. And then you have folks that are, it's not a question or request, but the community, like they're there, yes, to further their own quest, but they get a kick out of helping other people on the pathless path or on category design or whatever it is. And that my hunch is that if I had to guess, and you'll tell us, is some portion of them are people who are like, I'm so grateful to you, Paul. Pathless Path changed my life. I want the super ding dong version as a piece of art, as a decor element, as a reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and a motivator to stay on the track. I want the path. I will spend $100 because I want to gift it to somebody. Like, gifting is a huge market that most of my clients haven't thought about. And that, I want to give somebody else the pathless path, and maybe the premium version will make them sit up and actually consider doing it, type of a thing. Because like I wish I had more data on it, but I know that for our books in general, it's people buying it over and over again. They have no problem. They give away their old version, they're gifting it, and that they are on that community side is where, I don't know, a third, maybe more, of our book sales probably come from folks like that are just like, you got to read this, you got to read this, you got to read this. And a premium version, I think, could fit very perfectly into that.
Yeah, the gifting is huge. Early on, after launching my book, I received a couple of emails where people said, oh, I bought 5 copies to give to people. I've had so many people say they gift my book to other people. And so I
Yes.
leaned into that. This was probably my only real consistent marketing strategy. I would do 2 things. One, if somebody told me they were already buying my book and gifting it to others, I would send them 10 paperbacks for
Wow.
free and just say, keep gifting them. I really
Oh,
appreciate it. They
that's
loved
genius.
it because it's something they're already doing. And the
Yeah.
people that gift your book, these are your, I don't know if super consumer fits as a label here,
Oh,
super
absolutely. Yeah.
gifters.
Yeah.
But I think the metric writers don't think about for a book, which they should, is who is buying your book, finishing it, recommending it, and then buying it again to gift to someone else.
100%. You nailed it. You nailed it.
And so in my tiers for this $100 book, I have the bundle, I have the launch bundle, which is $95 for the book and the notebook and the cards. And then the second tier is buy one, gift one tier.
Which I
And
love.
that
That's great.
is 2 of the bundles. And then there's like a third tier, which is $500, calling it the Medici tier, more oriented toward, hey, you're supporting this journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been pretty interesting. Those, I think I've probably sold about 15 to 20 of the buy one gift one and 5 or 6 of the Medici tier. And
Amazing.
the cool thing about this is it instantly signals to me, oh, who loves this? I can go
Mm.
and talk to these people, figure out why they love it, keep doing stuff in that direction and keep learning.
Yeah. I think from a data perspective, you're spot on. It's perfect. And it's funny, the super consumer part, where it really, the gifting part really crystallized, like, you'd spent, you were at MIT, like iRobot, was a longtime client of mine, and they had this weird data that, and I always write about weird data, and like, where units were growing faster than household penetration. And they were like, something's weird with the data. What's going on here? And I was like, okay, let's dig into it. And it was gifting. And they're like,
Oh, wow.
you're insane. No one is gifting a $500 robot. I'm like, well, let's look into it, right? And you know what it was, Polly, was like people our age buying a Roomba, loved it, got a second room, loved it, had a kid or a dog, got more of them, right? And then it was uh, uh, their parents getting older,
Ah,
not cleaning as much, not savvy with technology. And once the auto evac, where you could do the app and it would just empty itself and go back out again, that was the whole thing of like, people our age buying it. I did this for my parents. Like you buy it, you set it up. And my dad, who, grew up in the Korean War, and actually the early aftermath of all of that, right, was like, this is the greatest technology I've ever seen in my entire life, and the like, right, and it made him so happy. And it's a very empathetic, practical thing, and that they were like, oh, maybe we should offer like a senior citizen, let me help you set it up, Geek Squad, like, so there's a whole set of things that we did around that. And then we really kind of pushed the envelope, where there was one Black Friday, where we said, bundle your highest end Roomba and your highest end robot mop. And they were like, it's going to be $1,800. No one's going to do that. I'm like, number one, you're going to go reject the premise of Black Friday. Everything's cheaper, right? Like, well, I'll give you a premium bundle. Yeah, I'll discount it some, right? Huge, massive seller. Like, and I think this whole thing around, um, the problem of gifting that people don't really dig into is that there's the reason why, gift cards are a ginormous category is a signal that we as human beings are terrible gifters. We don't, and then why does like e-commerce suck around the holidays because of returns? Because we're terrible gifters, and that if you solve the problem of gifting, that's something that is emotional, relational, and actually aspirational toward the future, a robot vacuum is great for that. And I would submit that gifting somebody the Pathless Path or one of our books or whatever, if it's like, look, this is the future, this is your ticket to the future, I would be a lame-o son, brother, friend if I didn't gift you the future. So who cares if I'm spending $500 or $100 with it? Like the psychology of it, it's truly untapped in a way. And I think you're exactly right. Authors need to have confidence to reject the premise, but also never underestimate the love that you get from your best super consumers, your readers, and largely because more than likely your work has transformed their lives. And when something transforms someone's life, they are immensely grateful for it and will always evangelize you going forward.
yeah, it's really wild. It's sort of blown my mind. I've been doing a video series where I'm sharing reader stories now because this to me seemed
Oh,
like the most fun thing to do. And so, yeah, one guy I met this summer, Matias Bueno, he's traveling the world trying to collect all the soccer kits from all the
oh my
FIFA
gosh.
teams around the world. He's going to like every country, and he's the most enthusiastic, energized person I've ever met. And it was just so cool to meet him. And I meet him, I'm so inspired, and he's it's all because of your book. I'm like, well, like give yourself some credit, but yeah, this is pretty cool. And so I'm trying to lean even more into that. And yeah, coming back to the category pirate thing, it really is trying to think about the category and the problems I'm solving. And I think this is something worth talking about because you talked a bit about the economics of a book as well. And one of the things I have noticed in the author world is the reason the publishing world can be so lame and uninnovative is because of one big secret. They rely on these paid speaking gigs for authors. And so I had a friend that has gone to all these author meetups around the world, and he said every single conversation devolved or evolved, as he said, into talking about how to get paid speaking gigs. But I'm writing a book to write a book and do more
Yeah,
writing. I want to
yeah,
write more books. And so all of this is oriented around how do we actually make money doing books?
yeah,
But it's hard. I think
yeah,
in my category, I haven't figured out how to make money doing the community thing. That's mostly a break even, fun place for people to hang out. I have figured out how to make money doing the books, But given my energy and interest, I haven't really figured out how to make sustainable money in other ways. And so the option for me was to push and double down on how
Yep.
do I make money with the book in more interesting ways. And so it's a bet on that. I think you're also trying to do that with, hold on, my video just timed out.
Oh, yep. No worries.
Don't. Oh, let me just. Oh, here we go. I don't know why I did that. I was using my iPhone. And so, yeah, I don't really have a good answer, but I'm hoping I figured out along the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I have some thoughts from our journey that could be, in the spirit of jamming and kind of figuring out all this stuff was like, I think you're doing great pushing the envelope on the book front. And, one thing I will get into after this is, I suspect your Medici thing. I saw that you're using an Italian publisher to get your stuff out. Like, I would love to talk about that whole supply chain part of it, but like, because we're having some issues trying to figure out the math of Book Vault and Lulu and all that kind of stuff. But like,
it's very complex.
it's but so an opportunity if we can figure it out, but it should be easier for people and stuff. And maybe the path that you're blazing, and hopefully we'll make it easier for other folks. But like the speaking gig conundrum that you talked about is exactly that. You accept the premise that books can't make money, and that's just stupid, right? It's like, well, if you assume that's the case, then of course it won't make money, like, right? In that, so one of our good friends of the pirate ship, Joe Pine, he's the author of The Experience Economy, like, big hero of ours. And well, ironically, I met him in Sao Paulo at a speaking gig. We were both doing the conference together, and turned out we had a lot in common. Shared the same HBR editor and all that kind of stuff with it. But like he's constantly writing and working on new books. And what we told him was like, and credit to Cole, this is the model that he set up for us was, because originally, as I mentioned, Christopher and I were going to write a book about category design. He brought Cole on to help us, ghostwrite it. We're like, hey, why don't you be an equal co-author with it? He was like, great. And then Cole goes, I think we should do a Substack. And my response was, what's a Substack? I had no idea what he was talking about, right? And then the whole concept was people will subscribe and pay us and read the book as we build it, and then they'll buy the book at the end again. And I was like, it very much fit the super consumer theory. So I was like, okay, made sense to me. Never done it before. And so I suspect, whether it's for good work or a future book that you have coming out, like, I bet you, and you have a great head start on this one, is that people would pay you to watch you work and build it real time and interact with it along the way. Because for sure, what Joe found out, so he's launching a new book, The Transformation Economy, in Q1 of next year. It's going to be awesome. An extension of the Experience Economy. And we encouraged him to do that. And he set up a transformation Substack. And he was thrilled. He was like, I can't believe this is working. People are paying me to do this. And, his publisher, HBR, they were very upfront about it. So it's like, okay, cool. We'll allow you to double dip. You build it on Substack, you get that revenue, and we'll give you a traditional book contract with it. And so
that's great.
that was I know they're experimenting there a little more. And so that was really cool. And then the third thing that I'm pushing Joe to do is, so probably the big thing on Substack that has been a game changer for us in the last half year has been the founding subscription tier. So, the way typical Substacks, $10 a month, $100 for the year, maybe 150, 250 for the founding tier, whatever. And so we had set ours to be a premium to that, $20, $200, and $350. And shame on me as the guy that wrote Super Consumers, I had ignored that top price point for years. Like, we had a handful of people paying it, and we had no discernible benefits. They were just kind of doing it just to do it. And I was like, well, this is stupid. So like, I was like, what problem can we solve for our best readers? And our thing is a little bit of like, kind of like you described, like an art project. Like, You know what would be helpful for us internally, solving for us is that the question, we have written so many things. The question we always say is like, did we write about this already and stuff? And so, we just wanted like a simple kind of a RAG, system
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
eat all of our stuff and then just allow us to just do a massive search on it. I talk about, the prestige bingo game. I found a Caltech, AI engineer on Upwork, charged us $450 an hour. And I was like, can you build this for us? He's like, oh yeah, sure. And then 20 grand later, I was like, oh, it's going to take longer. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And this and that. And I'm like, okay, time out, stop him, and lovely guy, wrong use case, but like, and then at the very end, after he collected all the money, you know what he said? He goes, you could just wait 6 months and someone will put something out that solves your exact need. That's kind of the way Silicon Valley works. I was like, well, thanks a lot, man. So like, which is actually ended up being true. We found Delphi.ai. I think it would be really, really good for you.
Yeah.
Because what we've done is we've trained a Pirate Eddie bot, and so it's kind of predicated on our 11 Labs experience of like, there's a little bit of that. You upload a bunch of podcasts that you've done, clones your voice, right? But clones your brain is the most important thing, is that it has a massive context window, bigger than any other LLM that we've seen, so that we can upload all my HBR stuff, all of that stuff, and our 200 plus mini books into it. And the part that is the three things that I love about it. One is that the UI is actually very good. Like, you can chat on a computer, you can text it with a real phone number, you can call it and have a conversation with it. That's one. Two is that, oh, and by the way, on the UI one, the formatting is actually very nice. Like, and it matters. Like, it's like the user experience, people have raved about it. Two is that the context window is ginormous, as I mentioned. So, people like us, we're prolific. There's no shortage of room to run away with. And then thirdly is unlimited users. So it's a flat rate.
Nice.
It's like, I forget, like 100 something bucks a month. We pay $1,000 a year. We'll see if they change it, but as many users as you want on the platform, no marginal cost. And so for $1,000 and all of our library, we've trained it and we put it as part of the 350 founding tier. And that founding tier has gone up 18 times since May. Like, it's
Wow.
grown like gangbusters at the highest price tier. And around the insight that, people who love books and they love to read, but sometimes people just want the answer to their question, right? Sometimes people just
Yeah.
want to know, like, what am I supposed to do here? And sometimes they would like, the real thing is that the meetups that you did with the football kit guy, people want to talk to you, Paul. People want to talk to, us, and we don't have as much time in it. And like, I will show you like the number. Like, there was one person on our founding tier with Pirate Eddie Bot, 1,300 messages have been exchanged. I'm like, what in the world is going? Like, people are really going to town on this, and people are like, changed my life. I did my category design with this. I've been jamming with it for 4 hours. And for people like your book, which is, hey, you have to find your own path. I give you the courage that it can be done. Here's how I did it. But they still need to do the work of figuring it out. I would believe that an AI Paul trained on the Pathless
Yeah.
Path and trained on all your stories would be tremendously valuable.
Yeah. I have some skepticism there, but I'm open to the experiment. I think one thing I've struggled with is my stuff isn't really how to.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a category pirate, you could be a CMO and make millions of dollars for your company, right? So it's a no brainer to
Yeah.
pay $350 a year. My ideal people typically become poorer after reading my book.
Interesting.
Right? So, or they become more conscious about what they're spending because
Yeah.
they shift toward a path that is more uncertain. And so I I haven't found a really good thing or model that enables me to help solve problems. I think one of the answers, this is why I'm leaning into more books, is because I like writing and I have more
Yes.
books I think I can write. There's also a book around actually more of the creative recipes and stuff, which I think would be more valuable. So
Mm,
that could be a path there. But yeah, this is something I haven't totally figured out. I think on the
yeah,
books and writing and personal brand stuff, I've still really struggled. I still have some consulting stuff I do, and that's been the
yeah,
majority of my income over the last 8.5 years. But over the last 4 years, the pathless stuff has really taken over, and just the the response from people is just extraordinary.
yeah,
So the response is far greater than the income I'm earning
yeah.
from it. I don't actually know how to make money from it. Maybe I need to hire Cole.
Well, I mean, Cole's model is, I love Cole. He's a bit of a unicorn, right? Like, in that, like, I forget what I said something about Cole. Like he's a gifted writer, of course. He's a thought leader. Like he creates his own content, like we do and stuff. He's writes with courage and all that stuff. But the main thing is he is a workhorse, and which is a little bit different than I think a lifestyle business. I think I saw you tweet earlier
Yeah,
today, right?
yeah, for
And a
sure.
little different than me at this stage of life with it, because like the thing I forgot to tell you was like when I have plausible deniability because I left my firm when I was 43, and then when I turned 44, my middle daughter Audrey, who was in 6th grade at the time, um, I got a call from her junior high school teacher, English teacher. She's like, "Hey, I'm so and so. Did you read Audrey's thing?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "You should read it." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "We had a school project, write a children's book, and she wrote a children's book, and you might be interested in it." I'm like, "Okay." So I read it, and it's about this yellow balloon that comes to life and starts chasing this workaholic father before he loses his family. So I'm looking at this. I'm like,
You should ship this. You should publish this now.
so we did. No, actually, we and so I read it, and I was like, is this about me? And I was like, no. And then I told my friends, they're like, you moron. Who else is it about and stuff? And then like. And I'm like, but I quit my job a year before this and this and that. And it's just like, and then I had a buddy who ran a children's book operation, and I sent it to him, and he's like, dude, is this about you? But then the second question that people would say is this about me? Right. And that
Yeah.
was and so he was like, do you want to turn it into a book? And I'm like, all right. So we did a book project together. We hired an illustrator, as kind of like you were describing, and we put it out. It's called Joy. And and Audrey was, as you can imagine, all these places, like she did a TV interview, all these people wanted her to do
That's
book
so
signing. She's
cool.
like, no, she was like, Dad, what did you do? I don't want to do any of it. So she did nothing to promote it and this and that. So, but and actually, I should re-release it with a dad's soundtrack to it, because like I would go to these conferences, like whatever, like financial healthcare conferences, and they'd be like, "Oh, we want to buy your book." I give them Super Consumers, and I give away Joy, Audrey's book, with it, and they'd be like, "Thanks," and they'd look at this, they're like. And they were immediately like, "What is this?" And I told them about it, and they got really mad. Like, why are you giving this to me? So it kind of was a very interesting, odd experience with it. But
Yeah.
the part that struck me about your situation, I love B2B to C businesses. The AI thing might actually be a really good B2B companion for your consulting workshops, because that's a way to do
Yeah, I
consulting
think
at
so.
scale, and that can fund your B2C part of it, as you kind of do that. Because I do actually think that the part that you're describing is right, is that I think for some people, becoming, quote, poorer is exactly the right choice of, like, the give to get still works in your favor. More time with your family, more time, better health, all that kind of stuff, right? But then there are probably some folks that it's like a Goldilocks thing. You don't want to go too far on the, you don't want to be poor. You can, poorer is okay. And that some of the stuff that you are helping with is obviously going to help them on that front. So, but
Well, I do have some that are like, I earned so much money and got so lost that I have a lot to spend. So I did discover a few of those people.
that's
One
amazing.
hedge
Yeah,
one hedge fund guy like bought it and he's like, I want like 20 more.
that's
Um,
awesome. Because
I'm like, you're not price sensitive, are you?
Well, because I would say that partly, well, we should figure out a joint Pathless category pirates bundle, because what I would
Yeah,
say is that,
definitely. That'd be fun.
yeah, because you know what, the thing that's been fascinating is that I make more money now as a solo part consultant than I did as a senior partner at an old firm, partly because of the economics. Like, we had sold our firm to Nielsen, and so you have some of the EBIT that just goes straight to the parent company, and then the thing they don't tell you about, as a senior partner, like, is that if you're at a place like you were at, like a McKinsey or BCG, like the staffing model and scale still works, but a good chunk of your earning is goes to subsidize the other partners and stuff, right? The 80-20 rule happens, and that a small percentage of people actually drive the lion's share of the revenue. And that you have this kind of phenomenon of the most senior people, like Byron Trott, who's the Goldman banker that left Goldman
Yeah.
to be Warren Buffett's banker, is like, why do I need Goldman? I have Warren Buffett and the like, right? So you have that phenomenon where you can earn more, but like, I have found that it is the way the math works is by raising price, and that in the same way that you had the courage to reject the premise, like teaching the Pathless Path people to like find your superpower, raise your price, you may end up earning less, but the give to get becomes way in your favor. Like, if you earned 85% of what you made, but you work 8% of what you, like, I think many people would take that option with that. And
Yeah.
that, like, pricing is the key lever that I have found in that situation.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting things. I'm still experimenting. I actually have a freelance course. I teach people this stuff. I mostly give it away at this point. Uh, I think the I think the big question for me is partnering with more people going forward.
Mm,
I've been
mm.
hyper independent, and now that I'm a father, I just don't have the capacity to do everything soup to nuts on my own. And so this book project was the first time of partnering with someone.
Mm.
And so, yeah, partnering with people adds complexity, but it also gives you new areas to learn and
Yeah.
new areas to grow.
Well, let's keep exploring that path, because I think there's some fun stuff that we could do together. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't dig into this, because this is what we are, because in the spirit of one of us, how to make the $100 book work. Because I do think, I love that you're doing it as an art project. Part of us is, I think there was a real risk to putting our lightning strike marketing book at $100, but it was a statement, and and it's kind of like, I think sharing data is good. Like, the early first month of sales, you would expect the higher price point, volume is lower, but revenue is about constant within the range of our previous book launches. Um, I am kind of where I've netted out is that you can make the unit economics of a $100 book work, but we'll probably launch a $30 version. Like, we're going to good, better, best this, right? Is okay, fine. I'll launch a $30 version that's just the content, no Scooby snacks, right? And then the $100 version will have some, whether it's the audio and the EPUB combined with it. By the way, the access to the Pirate Eddie bot, because again, zero marginal cost. We are going to experiment with flexing that into the bundle of like, hey, you get 2 weeks for free. If you like it, then you'll trade up to the 350 mark. If you don't, then no biggie, but it makes the $100 feel better. And then, we will think about a, just for kicks, what would need to be true for $1,000 version to work, which is, not that far off of your $500 premium bundle and stuff. So,
Yeah, I
but
love that idea. It's Yeah, I think going to the $100 book just opens up so many different
oh,
possibilities.
100%. Well,
I
your
came
hedge
up
fund
with
guy can probably do more.
well, yeah, and thinking about what are all the options. And so this is something that publishers don't even do the basic business
No,
principles of price discrimination. And so
100%.
I I'm trying to think through price discrimination. I want people to access my digital versions free or cheap, my ebook
Yep.
maybe $5 because that seems to be an optimal price for sales and volume. Then it's paperback, maybe $20. And then for the super fans, it's the $100 book
Yeah.
or other things I'm going to create, like a notebook, a journal, a workbook in the future,
Yeah.
things like that. or other things down the road, maybe a children's book and other books. And
Yeah,
so
you write your children's book before your children write it, and like learn from my
I, kn-
experience.
I know mine would probably be my dad doesn't work much. Why is he home so much?
that's an that's a great that is a keep that idea. That is a great one
Well,
from
I
your
was
child's
joking with
POV.
one of my other friends who has a young kid and said, we would call it my dad has no job, except we still work. And the fun thing would be
Yeah,
we just do things we
I
enjoy and
love it.
make
I
money
love it.
outside of a paycheck.
I wonder about my kids. I mean, my kids saw me when they didn't see me because I was traveling a ton, and now they're like, "Dad's always here." And like, but yeah, I love that idea, and actually, I think it would be a real gift. I think if you wrote the Pathless Path from the child's perspective, probably from your wife's perspective, like it's a that 360 viewpoint is not always available to everybody. So anyway, great idea on that front.
Well,
Um,
my wife's book comes out next
oh,
month.
oh, perfect,
Yeah. So,
perfect.
so I'm in a writer family, and so we have a very weird life. We're both the kind that, like, if we don't write, we get discontented, and we'll send each other away for writing retreats.
Well, so I'll give you this is my so we have three kids. I have two in college. One's 17, about to go to college. So we'll become empty nesters soon. And I'm from Hawaii, so my wife is graciously we're going to split time. We'll be on the Big Island and then in Chicago, well, depending on where the kids end up. And the big fear that I have because we have some friends who are older than us is like I don't want empty nester time to be like who is a stranger now that we don't have kids to worry about and stuff, right? And so we actually launched a joint Substack together called Big Island Memory Makings, and it's the whole idea is like, you talk about a niche upon a niche is like why it's worth the money to set up a milestone multi generational trip to the Big Island, and
I
rent the
love
big
it.
house and this and that, and like part of it is we have a rental house down there that if the Substack makes no money, but it yields one lead and more than pays for the rental house part of it. The second part is we were able to leverage category parts to do it, but like it's largely like, um, hey, so little tips, travel hacks of like, hey, you probably will land in Honolulu. You can fly Hawaiian, you can fly Southwest. Travel hack in Kona, Southwest deep planes on both ends. So if you're the dreaded boarding group C, can actually work in your favor because you'll get off the plane faster. Little things like that to why you should hire a
Nice.
professional chef because the math actually works. You got a better experience and you don't have to go out. Like, so there's all kind of things on the spectrum there. But like my wife and I write it together. And I like to say, we're 20 posts in. We've had one big fight. That's it. But like, we're trying to figure this out together. And so I think, that's awesome that you're in a writer family and your wife was working. Because I will tell you that like my greatest wish for myself is that I wish I'd started writing for myself way earlier. Like I kept a journal for 30
Same.
years and that was helpful. And so like, I think as a dad, that's the best thing that you can do is model that for your kids. And so that's awesome. Please tell us when your wife's book comes out because we would love
It's
to
going to be in
read it.
Chinese first, and then I'm helping translate it to English.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
I will tell you the 11 labs part is I don't know about the veracity and accuracy, but I get a kick out of I'll upload my writing and it'll read it in English, of course, but then I'll upload it and hey, do it in Korean and it'll do it better than my Korean actually is. Like I'm like, oh, this is actually interesting. So, but can we I know we're running late, but can we get into the supply chain, the publishing stack? So I would love to understand
Yeah.
what you're doing with the Italian publisher because I can share some of the questions that I have, but like
Yeah.
how did you
So
pick your publisher and this and that?
So I'm partnered with a book production company in the US called Otter Pine. Otter Pine, it's led by this woman, Saia Wood. She is a weirdo like us. She is really creating a category of she only supports indie authors, and she creates books that are unique to the author. She's really good at this. She's very selective about who she works with. She does all of Derek Sivers' books. He sells all his books directly and has an interesting pricing model around them. And so a lot of it is her choices for me. And through working with her, I've come to really just trust her. She's very aligned with how I see the world.
Yep.
We could have tried to print the book in China. We probably would have saved $7 to $10 per book. And we ended up printing 2,500, which is probably a bit bold. I'm thinking maybe I should have printed 1,000 to start with, but it's not that crazy for like some of the risks of doing it in China. And so we went with Italy, and it was pretty much guaranteed we were going to get what we want. It was going to feel how we wanted it to feel. And so she really cares about the experience. She's worked with them before. And so she has an in-house illustration team. We did all the illustrations together. Throughout the process, we decided we were going to do a notebook as well. And it's like a simple 64-page notebook with custom illustrations. It's a companion notebook. The same company in Italy printed those. And so did those together. She also produced the note cards on her own. And then she has a small warehouse in North Carolina. And she has a team which packages and delivers and confirms the deliveries and has a lot of wisdom around shipping books around the world. And so she's really handling a lot for me. We already had one failed delivery in the UK. And so doing this on your own, it can suck because there are two options in that case.
Right.
They can either destroy the book or pay $50 to send it back. And so you're left with some really hard and expensive choices.
Yes.
And yeah, I think I've sold books to 22 countries. We're shipping them to places like Mauritius and Philippines and Japan. And so we're going to face some challenges. She has experience in handling all these challenges. And so I've sort of given her the direction to eat any costs, delight the customer. And so there are no special advance copies. I've sent gift copies to friends and some influencer friends, but their copies are not special. Everyone who orders is going to get the same high-end, delightful experience. It's going to be opening a gift. It's going to be packaged delightfully. And so that packaging and shipping experience is about $10 a book. If you look at the print cost of the book, I think we're looking at $10 to $20 if you count the slipcase as well. And then we have a little bit more for the notebook, a little bit more for the note cards, and then there's probably $10 to $20 of production and design and illustration cost.
Okay.
And so on the 2,500, I think the cost is somewhere around $30 to $40, or about $45 per copy, which is extreme. That's including the shipping and distribution and fulfillment. Doesn't include shipping because customers pay shipping, but it includes the fulfillment costs.
Yeah.
And so I have some room to come down in price and be competitive, but I think at $100, I can basically sell half, or less than half, and break even.
Yeah, I love that math.
And it's not comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
I would say, but I could have gotten investment from other people. I could have gotten people to sponsor it. And I just decided, you know what, screw it. I think I can fund this through cash flow of my business and book royalties over the next year and a half. And it looks like I'll essentially have funded it with only dipping into my savings for 2 months over the last 3 months.
Amazing.
And basically I'll be cash flow positive next year, or in January. Which is awesome.
Amazing for any kind of a business in general,
right?
Or business ROI venture wise and stuff. So that's great. And if it takes off, I assume some of the costs compress if you have to do bigger bulk orders and the like and stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely. So if
I
you're
hadn't.
listening to this and you want to order 500, you
How
are
about 1250? That'll make January, December, and the like and stuff. But um, no, I think that's awesome, and that it sounds like I hadn't considered it, but like I guess if you're going to pay $100, I should have thought of this like, and you're shipping it to the Philippines, like you're probably not surprised that you as a customer pay for shipping on top of that or this and that with it and stuff, right? So
yeah, on
people
high end
kind of
stuff, I
generally
think
understand it.
people are familiar, especially the Shopify interface. But yeah, I mean, this is just the start. I'm seeing this as a
Yeah.
multi-year experiment. And this really gets to the limitations of publishers. Publishers
Yes.
often own merchandising rights, they own collectible edition rights. So you can't even do this stuff. And so there's so many other sort of like
Yeah.
tangential brand extensions I can do around this.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just starting. And so we'll
Well,
see what emerges from it.
what I love about it is, thank you for sharing all that, Paul. It's super interesting and helpful because like I think it just illustrates there's a wide gap between the no money at risk Amazon self-publishing and what you're doing here. Like you can pick somewhere in between in the middle, but like what I love about it is you're making the unit economics clear where, your awesome art project and still make a 50 margin on the book. Pretty good. Better than what you'll make on a Kindle product and the like and stuff, that's for sure. And you get actually this tangible, beautiful thing with everything else. But like, what it also tells me, Paul, is that the math of it becomes fairly simple. If we can do $100 book, a $250 book is certainly reasonable, and at which point you'd have an 80% gross margin on it, or you can keep it at 50 and put even more super ding dong stuff into the book and delight the customer even more. But like, at some point, like the percentages, one, you own your rights. Two, no one can tell you what to do. And three, you don't take, gross margin percentages to the bank. Gross margin dollars end up being, $50 or $125. That's pretty awesome. And I think for a transformative experience like yours, absolutely worth it especially if it comes bundled with your wife's book and then my dad, why is my dad home all the time book and stuff. I think that'd be hilarious with that. So.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm still in the early stages. There's a lot to learn. I definitely think there's opportunities to go up in prices and adding value and figuring it out. I think for this, I'm so anchored around just the book. I want to sell the book.
Yes.
I don't want to sell a bundle of all these other add-ons and gifts. I am giving community membership to the buy one gift one tier as sort of it's a community spirit, and then a call with me on the higher end tier. But I think there's so much more I could do. But I'm trying to keep it simple and just like, let's reclaim the book. Let's just look at the book as this incredible, beautiful thing. It's timeless. It's Lindy. Let's just appreciate it. Anyone nuts enough to create a book, I want to support these things. Amen. And keep it going.
Well, to your point, anyone want to order 500 copies of the Pathless Path? Please raise your hand. Any other author who wants to reject the premise, reach out to Paul, reach out to us, come jam. Please make yourself known because you're not alone, and we want to help support. I will be ordering your book, and it's one of those like creators have to help each other. Because the pie can be so much bigger. I think great authors like yourself make such a difference in people's lives. And, what we want is more people who, great authors to write more great stuff. And for that to work, the math has to work with it. And so, let's, support art in that regard. So that's super exciting. So is there anything else that you wanted to follow up on our jam with? Like, this is so exciting. I'm buzzing.
I mean, I could probably pick your brain for hours more about the category pirate stuff, but
we can always do another one too. So it's up to you.
It's just, it's great to talk because I think this actually helped me a ton just thinking through what I'm trying to do. I actually came up with an idea while you were talking about the experience stuff of just maybe creating a separate Substack where people co-write a book with me and I sell sort of
Oh,
coaching on top of that, because I think that is actually one direction I really want to lean into. But
yeah, yeah. I think it's super cool. Like it's been kind of fascinating to watch Substack really blow up, and it's similar. I think their cut is fair, 10%, and whatever, a couple percentage points for the transactions and this and that, and that it's a zero startup cost venture is great. You have an audience to leverage. That was the other thing is like having category pirates to help launch the Big Island one, and having the Pathless Path to launch if you did one, like obviously just saves a lot of time and helps you accelerate much faster. But like there's no doubt, like just with you were much better at the social media stuff than the old guys like us are and stuff. But like it's I think that's a cool path. And I think to your point, like we're writing another mini book I've come out in January about marketing should be a profit center, and that this whole idea of like your marketing should be so good that people are willing to pay for it, and that this idea of loss leaders, I just think it's an old idea that needs to go. I mean, yeah, you
love
can
it.
do it, like but like that's the idea of like if you have books are your thing, community services that, but how do we make everything so that everything makes money and is still synergistic in promoting everything? So, I may reach out for a couple of, data points or case study on it, but, thank you for the offer,
Definitely.
Pine. I'm going to look at that and I'll say, Paul told me about you guys and, let's see if we can talk about it. But like, I think that might be
Yeah, I
super
think
helpful
you
because
could
there's
be
a lot of
I
mess.
think you could be a good fit with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll let you get to bed, and thank you for this time. And I hope it's not the last time we jam on this stuff. So
Sounds good. Good talking with you.